Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah.
Melanated!
Alright, so in this video, I wanted to do a get ready with me, and I was having a conversation with my brother earlier today, and I wanted to share that conversation with you because I thought that it was very interesting. I'm not going to be talking about any of the products that I'm putting on my face, but I will have them on the screen, and I will have them linked down below so that you can go purchase them or know what they are, whatever you want to do. I recently discovered that my brother and I are millennials. I thought I was Generation X, but I'm not. I'm a millennial. Interesting. Okay, so anyways, we're having a conversation because recently in the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of incidents happening surrounding Black men. Specifically, I wanted to talk about Steve Stevens and Cedric Anderson. So let me talk about them individually first to give you guys the little breakdown of who they are and what they mean to this conversation. So Steve Stevenson is the guy. I wanted to say something negative, but I won't. Steve Stevenson is the guy who killed a 74-year-old man on Facebook because he says that his mother and his girlfriend weren't responding to him. I know it's not as simple as that, but that is just basically the short version of it. On Easter, he apparently went on a killing spree and just killed a bunch of people, but there's only one confirmed death. And that is a 74-year-old Black man. Another person that I wanted to talk about is Cedric Anderson. And I don't know if this made national news, but it definitely made local news, me being in San Bernardino County. But we have Cedric Anderson, who is the man who went into a elementary school and shot and killed his estranged wife, himself, and a child. It was just like back to back, these Black men with guns killing. Before, it's always been like, oh, Black men don't do that. Now, I'm going to call it what it is. Obviously, I think that Cedric and Steve definitely had mental illness. Not to say that any of that is an escape or a reason for this behavior, but I definitely do think that we have to take into consideration that something is definitely or was definitely wrong with these men to let this behavior happen, right? Because at first I wanted to say that it was the patriarchy. At first I wanted to be very much like, oh, it's because, these Black men attacking Black women and, the patriarchy and thinking that, a Black woman has to give them the time of day in order for them to feel like men and and blaming the Black woman for the plight of the Black men and blah, blah, blah. Very much like, I'm over it. I'm over that narrative because I really am over that narrative. And I would say even with dealing with women, we don't acknowledge mental health the way we should. We also don't acknowledge the shift that has happened in our community amongst our educated peoples. Now, I'm just going to say and assume that Cedric and Steve are a part of our educated peoples. My brother actually told me that Stephen was, he was a Q, and I guess that means he was in some sort of fraternity. And I think the shift that I'm talking about is the shift, because I read a report came out June 2016 that over half or 50% of Black women have degrees. So like Black women are excelling faster, and they have been for at least a generation, than Black men. Something that I always draw back to is when I think of the Obamas, I always think of Michelle as the leader. Like I always think of her as she was his boss when he was in law school. Like, she was, when he was an intern, she was over him. And she, in my mind, was more successful before he became the president than him. Monetarily wise, that she was the major breadwinner. And not to say that, because, Obama's on a slump, but I'm saying that she met him toe to toe when it came to education and when it came to, certain things in the Black family. With her Black family specifically. And that's something that I'm intensely and immensely proud of. But I think that might be the case with a lot of Black families. And I think that there might be a situation where Black men are starting to feel a little inadequate due to that. And I don't know how much the Black woman has to do with that and maybe the dynamic within the household. But I do think there's something like that going on. Black men are having a harder time dealing with that because they deal with the patriarchy telling them that they're supposed to be the breadwinner and they're supposed to be this. And so even if a Black woman is doing the most in her life and very successful, that she should somehow still cater to a man because he's a man. And then that could cause distress when that doesn't happen. You know, when you have your wife or whatever making more money than you, doing more in her life than you, and you are starting to feel inadequate, not necessarily due to her attentions towards you, but just pressures from society. And so, I mean, this is all speculation. This is not specifically talking about these men. I'm not talking about these men or excusing their behavior. I'm just talking about Black men in general and my sort of limited idea of what that looks like and what I think, you know, my conclusions that I have drawn. My brother was telling me that he feels like Black women don't acknowledge mental illness though as much as they would like to think they do. He says that, you know, Black people are still very conservative, especially if Christianity or religion is involved. There's still this idea that like all they need to do is pray, and if they prayed more they wouldn't have these feelings, and you know, Black men are supposed to be strong and strong for the Black woman, and you know, you can't ever call a Black woman crazy. And I'm like, well, you know, I told him that, you know, you shouldn't call anyone crazy. In fact, like, call it what it is, but don't call it crazy, you know. Like, let's actually name it. Let's not just say, oh, that's the way they are, you know, that she just likes to yell. Like, no, he just likes to drink. All of that. Addiction, all of that falls into the category of mental illness to me. If you have an addiction that is causing your family stress and you can't stop, that's a mental problem. It could be physical, because there are some addictions that are physical, and there are some addictions that are mental, you know? And I think that some of them fall into, like, you know, different issues fall into that. And I think we got to start acknowledging, because this is going to continue to happen. I feel like once one person rises and behaves like an asshole and gets notoriety and gets into the public eye, then another one's going to start. Then another thing. And maybe it's indicative of an epidemic that's happening, or something that hasn't really even been called to the surface, because maybe it's been happening. You know, I do think that there are a lot of people who suffer through abusive relationships, a lot of Black women, because of issues like that, because of Black men feeling inadequate, because of, and then, you know, they want to blame it on the Black woman. Like, it's the Black woman's fault for going out and getting the education. It's the Black woman's fault for coming back wanting more. It's the Black woman's fault. If only the Black woman would humble themselves and recognize that her king is her king, and yes, she can go out there and be a doctor, but when she gets home, she's just a woman with a husband, you know? And I don't agree with that. I think that we need to acknowledge that there is a shift in our culture of power, and Black women have it. My examples of that, and these are extreme examples, obviously, are Oprah, right? We know Stedman exists, right? We know that Black men love, and Black women love to downplay Stedman, like, oh, Stedman's just her lapdog. But Stedman has his own bloody career. Stedman is a successful lawyer, his own career in his own right, living his natural life with his billionaire girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Like, living life for years, and people want to talk about them and, oh, Oprah didn't let Stedman do, oh, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, just the blame of whatever thing that you think is happening within their relationship is on Oprah because she's too strong. But that argument would never happen if it was the opposite. The same thing with Jay-Z and Beyonce. I think that Beyonce is a bigger star than Jay-Z. I think she has a larger pull. You know, from my standpoint, and yours could be absolutely different than mine, Beyonce is in the driver's seat. She has the most clout. She's got the most power. And the power and clout that he has, yes, he's developed himself too, but he's also married to Beyonce. And the same thing with Barack and Michelle. We always respect Michelle just as much. Michelle is the most decorated, educational-wise, first lady ever. And she's Black, and she's a Black woman. I always felt like Michelle took a backseat to become first lady. That she was just like, all right, boo. You know, we've supported each other through this, and now this is our next move together. This is what we about to do. And I've always been very like, yes, I love the fact that I know that Michelle is strong, and they have a partnership. And I'm not saying that one is weaker than the other. I'm saying that the dynamic between them as a couple is not what I think most people think of when they think of a marriage. They always think of the man as leading the way and being the breadwinner and being the like whatever. And I don't know the dynamic of them. Like, you know, maybe at home it is a different. I don't know their life. But what I'm saying is that he's not afraid. Barack, Jay-Z, you know, Stedman. These men are not afraid to let their women be the powerhouse house that they are. They're not afraid of that. And I think that there's a certain amount of insecurity sometimes that comes along with being a black man when your wife is seen as more powerful than you. And my brother made a very good point. And we put what he said. He said that black women are powerful, and if they care to change the community, they have to lead it. And the black men have to protect them. They have to make sure that no one stops that mission. So his example was when Beyonce did the Super Bowl and she, made the statement, and the police officers decided they weren't going to do security on her at her show the next week or whatever because she was anti-police all of a sudden, right? And so the Nation of Islam stepped up and were like, we'll do your security. And he was saying that that's what needs to happen, that black men need to recognize that there's a shift and it doesn't matter the gender. If black people are moving forward, we need to support each other in the moving forward of that, right? And I agree with him. I thought that was a very interesting and poignant point. But then you have these hoteps out here, or these ashy no-taps, as some of you have been saying, who are in denial of that. They want the tradition, and then they want a black woman to still be subservient, feed into some sort of male ego. And I'm just not here for that. Like, look, we both work. Whoever gets home first cooks, okay? Like, if I have the potential to make more money than you, and you want to stop me from making more money because of some bullshit ego, nigga, get out my face. To bring it back to these two crazy Negroes and the frustration that we're all feeling. I mean, for the fact that this man said that he's killing people around Cleveland, Ohio, and around the area that he's from because his mother and his sister will not answer their phones, will not contact him, will not call him back. Then he had the audacity to kill this man in cold blood on Facebook and invoke the name of his girlfriend, as if that's supposed to mean something. And then you had people on Twitter, mainly men, defending him and saying, not defending him, but like making a joke out of it, making a mockery out of the whole situation, saying, well, if Joy had just called him, you see how these black women are, if they would just, breaking down a black man, have a black man, like how is this black woman's fault because this man has lost his mind? How is that specifically? Maybe we should talk about how is it the black community's fault that this man is behaving this way? Because no one acknowledges that he has clearly some strong mental issues. The fact that Cedric Anderson may or may not have been abusing his wife and she decided to leave and he took it upon himself to kill her. And that's a whole other topic of domestic abuse, violence, and the patriarchy, and men feeling it's like one of their rights to be able to wrangle women and do whatever they want to do. And I mean, it's just all BS. And if you at all blame the victim in any of these scenarios, then you are part of the problem. I tell you right now, you're part of the problem. It's so baffling, the amount of black men who will defend this egregious behavior and somehow find a way to blame the woman for it. Somehow find a way to blame the woman for it. No matter, and it's like when it comes to street harassment, when it comes to any issue where black women are crying out and saying like, look, Negroes, this is what you are doing to us. There is always that voice of dissent. There's always that black voice, black male voice who wants to blame the woman. And where is that even coming from? Why is that a thing? Like the idea that like, oh, we can work on the women's movement later. Let's work on the black movement first. No, because y'all need to acknowledge that there's a situation going on. You should never be able to yell at nobody on the street because you feel like it because, oh, boys will be boys. And, I was having the conversation with my brother and he's like, well, only, crazy black men do it. Only like a certain da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I mean, it definitely is only a certain like type of guy who would do something like that, but they're not the ones defending themselves on Twitter. Okay. It is other black men who don't do that, who don't behave in that way, who are fighting for it on Twitter. And that's the thing I don't get at all. It's like, if you're not the one street harassing, if you're not the one yelling at women out of cars, if you're not the one doing all this thing, why are you fighting for the right of this old no account to be able to do it? Why would you fight for his right to be a jerk face? That don't even make no sense. Do we talk about the fact that the abuse that these women have suffered either mentally or physically from these men their reaction to it, because men are more likely to be violent. Not to say that there aren't violent women, but men are more likely to be the aggressive and to be violent just because of the way men are socialized. But then the idea, like, even I think of Cedric Anderson and walking into that elementary school. Like, how dare you? That's the only thing I can think of when I think of that situation. How dare you? Those are children. You have ruined the lives of children because you were upset about something your wife did. Like, how callous and selfish. I mean, the audacity. I just don't even know how to express the way I feel about this grown-ass man going into an elementary school and terrorizing children. It's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. But where do you have to be in your mind mentally to do something like this? Where are you in your mind where you're just like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that because I'm upset. The selfishness that comes along with it. And the same thing with Steven. The selfishness to take somebody's life because someone else won't return your phone calls. Like, who in the F do you think you are? I worry about copycats normalizing and having access to guns. And you're right. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. But people should not have access to guns. And I do believe that Black women are suffering from mental illness too. I think it just manifests itself in other ways. Like, I want to put a full line of liner, but then I don't want to because I feel like I like this. Okay, so I think I'm going to do half and half. I'm going to do like half of it. The wing part is brown. Then I'm going to make this part black. Okay, I better stop now before I get carried away. Didn't I just say I was going to stop? You know what's starting to happen to me? Smile lines. Like in my makeup. It's very upsetting. My face still looks very powdery. There's just so many steps to a beat, you know what I'm saying? So many. I don't know that I like that application of the highlight. I like it better with this. It was a little too aggressive for every day, you know what I'm saying? Okay, should I put a wig on? Should I just leave it like this? Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. This is the final look. It's a pretty long video, so I just want to thank you guys so much for getting to the end of it. This is the final look. I'm probably not going to wear this wig to work because it's real hot. I'm hot. I can't do it after being on these lights. I can't even fathom wearing this wig to work. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just want to know what you guys think. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this issue. I know I talked about a lot of different things and it probably is very confusing and I apologize for that. But have a fantastic day. Thank you. Bye.